Every day, Donald Trump's presidency continues to collapse around him as not only his tariffs fail, his big, ugly budget is the worst piece of legislation in modern American history, but of course, he is being constantly rocked by new bombshells in his Jeffrey Epstein scandal. And on top of that, Donald Trump's term isn't just collapsing, so is his brain. The cognitive decline is clearer than ever, and it came out today during a press conference while his handlers are panicked. We are going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we check out the complete cognitive collapse of Donald Trump and his handlers panicking because of it, I want to start with how Donald Trump began his press conference, a tired, sad talk about tariffs.
We're now negotiating with various other countries, and the rest we're just sending out the bill to. We send a bill, we send a letter saying that you'll pay a certain tariff. And obviously, that's most of them because you have, as you know, hundreds of countries, a lot of countries out there. So we look at the deficit or we look at the surplus, and we look at the country and how the country's treated us, and lots of other things go into the equation. And we make a decision as to what that tariff will be, and it's a pretty standard letter from that point on. And I want to tell you, this is something to me, it's a VA bill signing, and it's very important to me and to many of the people in this room.
I don't know if it's the luscious vacation he took to his own golf course to make sure he was funneling as much taxpayer money as possible into his own business ventures, using the presidency to bring a bunch of attention to his new golf course, the opening of his golf course. That was really the point of the trip. I don't know if that's what has Donald Trump so tired, or is just the constant Epstein scandals, Epstein bombshells, Epstein controversy all around him. But clearly, Trump is exhausted. He sounds terrible. He looks worse, and his brain is melting before our eyes. And we can very clearly see what's inside going wrong, but also the outside is pretty bad. And we got a glimpse of that as Donald Trump was unable to hear anything being said to him, like the old man that he is, and then went on a ridiculous rant.
Kash Patel reportedly found burn bags of Russiagate materials, and we'd love to get your thoughts on that.
He said what?
Burn bags of Russiagate materials
I don't
that the
know
FBI
that.
supposedly found.
I don't know that. I don't know what you mean by that statement. Say
Bags full of Russiagate
a
documents.
burn bag. I thought you said
Well,
appointed a man named Burn Bag. Go ahead. You got to speak up.
Thousands of documents in these bags, supposedly burn bags at the FBI in the secret room.
Well, I want everything to be shown. You know, as long as it's fair and reasonable, I think it will be shown and it should be shown. And I think he feels that way, and I think Pam feels that way. But it's got to be, it's got to be stuff that really doesn't hurt people unfairly, because you have so many people involved. And if they can do that in a fair way, I think it's great. I think it's really great. The whole thing is a scam. It's a scam set up by the Democrats, and they love talking about it. But I would like to see people exposed that might be bad, and we'll see how that all works out. But it's getting to be very old news. You know, if they had anything, they would have done it the week before the election, because they were losing by a lot. If they had anything, they would have done it. They controlled the file. The Democrats controlled it. Comey and all this, sleazebags, every one of them that you read about all the time. And I guess they've got some problems now having to do with yet a different scandal, very big one. But they control that file. So I would think that if they would have had something in the file, they would have released it about a week before the election, maybe 2 weeks, right, Brian? That's right. Go ahead.
Mr. President, welcome home.
You can just see how unwell Donald Trump is. It's before our very eyes. It's not that difficult to pick up on the fact that this is a guy who doesn't know what's going on around him. Very clearly, actually, he forgot that there were people behind him during his speech today, and it's the reason, on top of his Epstein scandal, that we're seeing his handlers panic. And what they're scared about is just what you'd expect from Trump, but pretty surprisingly stupid. White House officials fear Epstein fallout will slash Trump's crowd sizes. White House officials are worried about losing support from Trump's MAGA base, outraged about his handling of Jeffrey Epstein's case, with an insider saying that the president's all-important crowd size could be affected. Americans give Donald Trump low marks on his handling of the controversy, which has dominated headlines for weeks, and the Department of Justice and FBI announced earlier this month that the evidence showed conclusively that the disgraced financier died by suicide and did not keep a client list. The administration's failure to produce new revelations in the case has infuriated many of the MAGA faithful who have long believed Epstein was murdered in his cell while awaiting trial on charges of trafficking to protect his powerful associates. A poll released this week by the Washington Post found just 43% of MAGA Republicans approve of how the administration handled the issue, compared to 17% who disapproved and 39% who hadn't formed an opinion. So Donald Trump is collapsing before our very eyes, not just in his horrible poll numbers, not just with the controversy around his White House, but quite literally collapsing. And his handlers are worried about his crowds. MAGA's really locked in. This is a White House that really cares about the pressing issues, what's hitting close to home. They're really looking out for families. And Donald Trump made sure to make clear how much he was caring about parents across the country when he went on this bizarre rant right here.
It was. Many parents are preparing to send their kids back to school in a few weeks. Now, this will be the first time they've gone back to school under the second administration for you. Now, the previous administration labeled a lot of parents domestic terrorists for showing up to school board meetings. What's your message to parents now as they return their kids to school, knowing that they have the support of you?
Well, the beautiful thing is, as you know, we've gotten rid of the woke. Woke is gone, and I think pretty well buried. We're going to make sure it's buried. But the parents are now taking over the school boards. They're getting rid of these people that probably didn't like the children very much based on what they were doing. And it's a big difference. And, you know, one of the other things, and I keep watching these talking points that the Democrats have, they say, oh, prices are up. No, prices are way down.
Yes, as schools are unsafe from shooters, prices are higher. Our education system, already in poor shape, is being undermined and attacked by this administration. Of course, what parents are worried about is Donald Trump having defeated woke. Was woke free school breakfast and lunch? Because it seems like MAGA's trying to defeat that. So if that's what woke is, congratulations on letting kids go hungry, I guess. Is that okay? Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's woke. Those darn, woke bananas that we import that are now 25% more because of Donald Trump's tariffs. All those fresh fruits for those kids, they're getting the woke taken out of them. It's idiotic. Idiotic is the only way to describe it. That is what Donald Trump's economic agenda has been, especially his tariffs, which are just a complete failure.
Time now for Money, Power, Politics. And tonight, we start with this headline from the New York Times. Quote, Trump is winning his trade war. What will it mean for the actual economy? We've seen him use his leverage to announce new trade deals around the world that include big tariff rates, levels that would have seemed unimaginable 6 months ago. Let's be clear. Trump is remaking the world economy around tariffs, something he has been talking about for more than a decade. He is defying expectations, and right now the U.S. economy is holding up. But the big question is, how long will this last? There are plenty of unknowns swirling around the so-called deals themselves. Will they even hold up? Many of the deals are light on details, and countries could push to rewrite them when they have the leverage. In some cases, like with Japan, it seems like these two countries cannot even agree on what they agreed to. As far as all of these promised investments go, we might not actually ever see them. You might remember in Trump's first term, he struck a deal with China that included a promise to purchase $200 billion of American exports. That never happened. And then there were these tariffs that are already directly impacting Americans. Procter & Gamble says that people are spending less, shopping less, and only buying things they really need. Remember, these are 10 and 15% tariff rates in the trade deals that are still huge increases. Yes, they're not 50%, but 10% is still big. That means that American companies, big and small, are suddenly facing much higher costs, leaving them to decide whether to swallow that cost and lay off workers or pass it on to you, the consumer. So Trump may be winning, but are Americans? What about us? Joining me to discuss, Dan Nathan, CNBC contributor and co-host of the Risk Reversal podcast, and Natasha Surin, former Treasury official and Yale Law professor. What's your thought? Trump says he's winning the trade war. He is getting trade deals or frameworks done.
Right, they're frameworks, right? So when we think about just going back to the first administration, when they first slapped tariffs on China, it's 2018. It was March. We didn't really have a phase one deal in place with China until January of 2020. So you kind of just laid it out here. We have a deal supposedly with Japan. We have a deal with the EU. If you think about those two blocks, they're about 25% of the imports that we get right here. And we just don't really have a lot of detail about that. So what hasn't come to the table right now? It's Canada and Mexico. They're about 25% of our imports. Those are two of our best allies here, right? And so this week, the focus has been on China. Well, they're about 10% of our imports. So when you think about the Chinese, you think about how nothing's really happened over the last, let's call it, week or so as we've kind of had these talks here, especially in Stockholm over the last few days. You have to ask yourself, if you're the Chinese, why are you rushing to do a deal if we are not even able to do a deal with our two biggest trading partners, which is Canada and Mexico? So I think there's not going to be a lot of there. And just really quickly on your point about who's winning right now, because the economy, what is our economy saying? Well, right now we saw a huge pull forward. A lot of American companies were buying goods. A lot of consumers were buying goods right before these tariffs might go in place. And therefore, you've seen artificially inflated numbers, whether they be by companies and their earnings or by our GDP that we're going to get a read on tomorrow. But the real reason that the Fed is staying on hold, we have a Fed meeting tomorrow, is because they have to see what the inflationary pressures are going to be. You just said Procter & Gamble. These are staples. They're raising prices. They're passing it through to consumers. These are all the reasons why the Fed is on inflation watch here, and that's going to be the thing, the bugaboo, I guess, for the U.S. economy. If growth starts to slow, but inflation starts to tick up, we have stagflation.
Well, it's, what does winning a trade war look like? The Yale Budget Lab has a new report out laying out the impact these tariffs are having actually on us, not just headlines. Break it down for us.
Yeah, so first fact that we should all kind of wrap our heads around is no one actually wins from protectionism. So there are no winners from a trade war. Some numbers that my colleagues and I have put together that I think can provide some helpful context on where we are today. We have effective tariff rates in this country as of current that are about 18%. That is up from about 2.5% at the beginning of this administration. Those effective tariff rates are going to lead to price increases on literally everything that Americans buy, on the order of magnitude of something like 35% for apparel or 12% for consumer electronics. And the reason why those price increases are going to exist and maybe haven't fully kicked in yet in some sense in certain industries like apparel is because there has been this pull forward of inventory in anticipation of these tariffs. What importers were trying to do was try to kind of pull in as much as they could into the economy in order to have to avoid the fact that ultimately they are going to have to raise prices because there simply is no way to eat a tariff of 18% when you were operating in a world that was more like 2 just a few months ago.
This is an administration of complete incompetence. It plays out every single day, and therefore we have to call it out every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.